I just played Slay the Princess for the first time, and it made me realize that sometimes the truest choice isn't about what path you take, it's about why you take it, and whether you believe change is even possible. Real quick, if you haven't played Slay the Princess, or at least watched someone play it, I really recommend it. It's a phenomenal game, a true 10 out of 10, and you'd be doing yourself and the game a disservice to get spoiled by this video. If you want to watch my full playthrough of it, there's a link in the description, or maybe a link in the top right corner, I don't know, we'll figure it out. Anyways, on to the video. Let's start from the beginning. I went into this game completely blind. No trailers, no reviews, no context. All I knew was the title, Slay the Princess. So naturally, I assumed this game was about, slaying a princess. But from the very first moment, things felt off. The narrator, a character who insists that your only choice is killing the princess, immediately made me skeptical. Why was he pushing so hard? What wasn't he telling me? And more importantly, why was I already resisting him? Although the other voice in my head, the voice of the hero, wasn't any bit more persuasive to me. My first perceived decision came quickly. A knife sits on a waiting table, but I don't pick it up. Carrying it down into the basement felt wrong. I was going down there to hear her out. You can't bring a gun to peace talks. She needed to know that I was truly open to helping her out. Plus, why would I take it down there? If the princess was actually dangerous, I could always just come back up for the blade. But then I met her. And yeah, pretty instantly she was as suspicious as the narrator himself. I wanted to trust her, I genuinely did, but every instinct in my body screamed at me to be careful. She was calm, controlled, charming in an unsettling way, the kind of person who feels dangerous even when they're smiling. And she begged me to let her out. I hesitated until she couldn't even tell me her name. So, I went back upstairs for the knife because instincts exist for a reason. But by the time I returned, she'd already made her move. She hid in the darkness, removed her own arm to get away, and before I could find her, she killed me just like that. Attacked from behind before I even knew what was happening. But the game wasn't over yet. Instead, it threw me right back at the beginning, except things were different this time. Darker, more primal. And then there was this third new voice in my head, the voice of the hunted. He was cautious, nervous, wary. And the narrator believed that this was our first time approaching the princess together. But the voices of the hero and the hunted knew that wasn't the case. When I got back to the cabin, it had changed as well, as did the stairwells and the basements itself. The princess had changed too. She wasn't a princess anymore. She was a beast, a lioness with hungry eyes ready to swallow me whole. And that's exactly what she did. She needed me with her to leave, she said. That she couldn't escape after she killed me last time since I was dead. But when she tried to leave, carrying my broken body inside her, I still had a choice, and I took it. I killed myself from within her, a desperate act, defiance against the voice of the hunted, refusing to be beaten again. Or maybe it was just my own stubborn refusal to let her escape. In the first 20 minutes, Slay the Princess wasn't what I expected. It wasn't about morality or good versus evil. It was about trust versus instinct, about uncertainty versus survival. And more than anything, it was about understanding just how deep the rabbit hole would go and how quickly my choices would stop being black and white. As I came back to the beginning point yet again, it was just me, the narrator, and the voice of the hero. But this time even the voice of the hero had forgotten what had happened. By now I was convinced that the narrator wasn't trustworthy. Clearly he'd been hiding things, twisting my perspective, pushing me towards violence. But I couldn't shake that feeling that the princess wasn't trustworthy either. She killed me twice after all. So this time I tried something different. I committed. I walked in, knife already in hand, ignored every word she said, and just ended her immediately. No hesitation, no mercy, no conversation, just cold murder. And the game just let me do it. No judgment, no dramatic twist. It almost felt too easy. Or well, that was until my only option was to stop here and never exist in this world. I even got an ending screen. But it was too late. I had to continue. This time, by ending my own life. Again. When I came back, things were colder. The voice of the hunted was replaced by the voice of the cold. When we got to the basement, the princess was gone now, reduced to nothing but a skeleton and a ghostly echo, a spectre. She was empty, translucent, and surprisingly playful? Suddenly all of my cold decisiveness from earlier turned sour in my chest. This was my fault, my choice, and I hated it. But then the spectre spoke and asked me to take responsibility by letting her possess my body so she could leave. And in that moment, I was filled with so many thoughts. This will let me see what happens if she gets to leave. She doesn't seem so bad. Maybe the world won't actually end. What if she can hear the voice of the narrator, the hero, or the cold? So, I let her in. I let her ghostly presence possess me, willingly gave her control, and walked out of the cabin with the person I just slaughtered moments ago. Redemption? Maybe. Curiosity? Certainly. Or maybe it was just desperation. A selfish desire to undo a choice I already regretted. Either way, it was my choice to make, and I made it knowing full well it might break everything. And here's the thing. Between chapters, glimpses of a different princess, a real one maybe, started to appear, fractured and blurry. Seeing a monster, now a ghost, but still a person. Vulnerable and real. And suddenly this wasn't a game about slaying a princess. It was about shaping who she, and maybe even who I, could become. I didn't know exactly how yet, but I was starting to see behind the curtain. My choices were changing things, changing her. The question was no longer, do I kill her or not? It was, what do I want to do next? By this point, I'd seen her as a beast, a monster, a ghost. I'd been betrayed, killed, possessed, redeemed, or at least tried to be. But I still hadn't seen what happens when you just believe in her. Not fear her, just walk in completely open. So this time, I didn't even take the knife. I didn't even argue with the narrator. I didn't posture, threaten, or second guess. I walked down in that basement with nothing but the words, "I'm here to save you." And something changed. She didn't look dangerous. She looked hurt. Alone. Scared. And for the first time in the game, she didn't feel like an idea I was reacting to. She felt like a person. I told her I wasn't going to hurt her, that I believed her, and when she looked at me in the eyes and asked if I meant it, I said yes without flinching. At this point, the narrator forcibly took control of my body and made me kill her. But I resisted. I warned her, and she killed me again. But this time she was apologizing with tears streaming down her face. The next cycle was when the smitten voice appeared. God, I love that guy.
I think he just likes to hear the sound of his own voice. Let's try to ignore him. I do, but I also speak from the heart. My passions are too great to be stifled. They must be expressed.
He was ridiculous, whimsical, hopelessly romantic. But what made it all work was that he wasn't wrong. He was saying what I was already starting to feel, that the world had only been cruel because I treated it like it was. And if I believed in something better, maybe it could be.
Then let me show you a brand new truth. Narrator, we courageously step forward and free our beloved from her bindings. No. You approach the princess and gingerly slide her hand from her bindings. That shouldn't have worked. I'll be damned. We're doomed. I can't believe it. But I guess I have to. I told you, there's no life more worth living than that of a true believer.
I walked her out of that basement. No weapons, no conflict. The narrator was furious, desperate even, but I didn't care. Because for the first time in Slay the Princess, I felt like I was shaping the story, not just surviving it. This wasn't just an alternate route, it was the moment the game whispered something quiet but powerful. The world becomes what you believe it to be. And right then, I believed in her. But belief can curdle. That's the thing. Fresh off of that emotional high with the damsel, I wanted to push boundaries again. I'd seen kindness work, but I wanted to see what happened if I let my curiosity, or maybe just my ego, take the reins. This route started with me refusing to go to the cabin at all. The narrator tried his best to force me, yet I never went. And then the world ended anyways. This brought me the voice of the contrarian. I figured I'd done enough waiting around and that I could go to the basement again to see what was different this time. After the damsel route, I had committed to not kill her again. Instead, I was cruel. The cabin was fractured, the stairway was long, winding, trying to absorb me into it, but I continued onward to see my princess. When I saw her, my first thought was to save her no matter what. First, though, I asked a question. A simple question, yet this fractured her, creating another copy. This was interesting, but it was now time to save her. Until the voice of the contrarian rose up.
Ooh, new plan! Let's see if we can make even more of her.
And I went with it. I played around, splitting her into more and more versions. Instead of empathy or aggression, I chose something colder. Experimentation. I created copies of the princess, shattering her existence over and over, amused at first by the chaos I'd caused. But that amusement didn't last long. Because soon, the princess wasn't a princess anymore. She was fragmented, broken, a stranger even to herself. She became a monster, not out of anger or evil intent, but out of sheer indifference on my part. I'd stopped seeing her as human, as real, and in doing so, I stripped away her humanity entirely. And that realization hit hard. It wasn't dramatic or loud. It was quiet, subtle, sad. The contrarian voice faded, leaving only guilt. My playful curiosity had created something terrible, not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I didn't stop to think about the consequences of treating her like an object, like a toy. I thought I was above the narrator's manipulation. I thought I was smarter, cleverer. But in trying to prove how free my choices were, I ended up doing exactly what he'd warned me I always would. I made her into something monstrous, something cruel, not through anger, but through apathy. This chapter taught me something darker about choice. It's not just about intention, it's about attention. Ignoring the humanity of others can be just as devastating as actively harming them. After the stranger, I wanted to do things differently again. I didn't want to hurt her. I didn't want to just play with her. I wanted to understand her, maybe even reach her. So this time, I picked up the knife, but I didn't plan to use it. I just wanted to see how she reacted, to keep my options open, but this next route taught me the harshest lesson of all. For a while, it seemed like maybe I could still change something, but the narrator had other plans. He again hijacked my body and tried to force my hand. I fought back, tried to resist, but eventually I gave in. Just for a moment. I thought, fine, I'll try to kill her and see what happens. She forgave me last time. This time, she didn't. She killed me, but in place of tears was a dominant scowl. When I came back, everything was wrong. I didn't feel clever or strong or noble. I felt broken. And the princess, she wasn't afraid anymore. She wasn't curious or kind or confused. She was in control now. Utterly, absolutely in control. And this time, she wasn't locked in the basement. I was. That's when I realized that I had no power left. I tried reasoning with her. I tried appealing to some part of the versions I'd seen before. I said I didn't want to fight. I said I wanted to help, but she didn't care, and honestly, I couldn't blame her. I had nothing left to offer, nothing left to shape her with. This was no longer a conversation. This was judgment. And in that moment, I understand something awful. You don't always get another chance. Sometimes the world stops listening. So I surrendered. I had always assumed the worst endings came from my own violence or anger, but the true hopelessness, it turned out, came from trying desperately to reach someone who had already decided you no longer matter. I could have attacked her in that moment, maybe even killed her, but I didn't, because I still believed violence wasn't the answer, even now. Was that naive? Maybe. But it was my choice, and at least this way, I could say I stayed true to something, even if it meant losing everything. Sometimes the hardest thing is realizing you can't fix the damage you've done, no matter how badly you want to. Sometimes life doesn't let you. But the game wasn't done with me yet. I was standing on the edge of something enormous, with no idea if it would hold. The voices inside me, the hero, the hunted, the cold, the smitten, the contrarian, the broken, they all had left me. And for the first time, I was truly alone. Besides the princess, or at least what had become of her, shaped by the versions of her I had made throughout my time here. Instead of arguing, instead of attacking, I asked her questions and genuinely listened. But even then, she challenged me. She asked me if I'd ever really chosen a side, ever really committed to anything, or if I was just drifting, undecided, avoiding responsibility for my actions. And you know what? She was right. I'd been so focused on exploring options, I'd never truly committed myself to one vision, one reality. But here, at the end, something clicked. I realized my indecision was something deeply, painfully human. It was hope and fear, trust and doubt, all tangled together. In the game's final confrontation, I chose humanity, again and again, even as the princess tried to talk me out of it. I held firm. I chose empathy, understanding, the chance that, despite everything, I might actually reach her. She did everything she could to make me understand her perspective, but she kept dismissing mine. If she thought she could change me, then I must be able to change her. And that's when the game did something that absolutely floored me.
What I offer you is not perspective. It is truth.
Whatever you're trying to do right now, you don't have to do it alone.
The voice of the hero came back. The voice from the very beginning. The one that had been pushed down, ignored, overridden, suddenly spoke up again. And not with force, with hope. It said I could try. That I could still choose. And so in the end, that's what I did. It felt like forgiveness. It felt like redemption. It felt like finally understanding why I'd started down this path to begin with. I stepped into the basement one last time. The princess stood there, waiting, chained, and instead of picking up a weapon, instead of begging or bargaining or trying to rewrite the outcome, I offered her my hand. And she took it. Not as enemies, not as monsters, but as two people who had both been shaped and reshaped by what came before. And here's what I believe. That was my ending, my truth, my happily ever after. Because Slay the Princess isn't about fate or prophecy or control. It's about the stories we choose to believe in, and the people we choose to become because of them. And if I believe this was a happy ending, then in my world, it is. After the credits rolled, I just sat there for a while staring at the screen. Not because I was confused, but because I wasn't. Slay the Princess is a game built on contradictions. The princess is dangerous and kind. The narrator is manipulative and maybe honest. You are a killer, a savior, a coward, a romantic, a monster, a human, all at once. And none of those identities canceled the others out. They just coexist uneasily. At first I thought it was the game asking me to choose who I was, pick a voice, pick a path, commit. But by the end I realized something else entirely. It was never about choosing one version of yourself. It was about confronting the fact that you're all of them and learning to live with that. Because that's what it means to be human. We're not consistent. We contradict ourselves all the time. We want peace and revenge. We want freedom and control. We want to be loved and feared and understood and left alone all at once. It's messy, it's confusing, and it's real. I've spent so much of this game trying to be better, to make up for the cold, to redeem the contrarian, to justify the broken. But the truth is, I can't undo those things. They're part of me. They don't just vanish because I found a better ending. And even yet, I still chose humanity. I still reached out, and she reached back. That contradiction between guilt and hope, between the horror of what I did and the beauty of what I had tried to become, isn't a flaw in the story. It is the story. It's not something to resolve, it's something to accept. And in that way, Slay the Princess isn't just some psychological horror game. It's a mirror. It takes your choices, your beliefs, your fears, and reflects them back at you until you just can't look away. It doesn't judge you for being messy or indecisive or wrong. It just asks, do you believe you can change? And if you do, will you try? If you watched this video without playing the game first and now you want to, don't worry. The main driving force happens between chapters, and I didn't even really touch on that, or what happens to the narrator. Plus, there are 22 vessels total, and I only briefly talked about 6 of them. There's still a ton of this game left to explore and enjoy. That being said, thanks for watching. I stream a short game every Monday at 10 AM Central Time. On Fridays, I upload a video like this one. Part review, part retrospective, part overthinking. If you want to subscribe, I would appreciate it. If not, still thanks for watching to the end.
Well, are you gonna dance on the line with me? You know it's not a game or a fantasy, and I don't even know who I used to be, but nothing is the same, and something had to change now. Are you gonna